Doctor, look.
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dr. Homebrew. My name's Justin Crosley, filling in for Jason J.P. Petros, and we are live from HomebrewCon in Providence, Rhode Island. I've got the two Brians. Brian Squared next to me.
Yeah. Who's this JP guy you're talking about, though?
It's your show now. You guys are holding down the fort. I know.
He's dead to me.
What's he done for me lately?
Join us out here now.
Poor guy's gone for one episode. We can't even remember who he is.
Hopefully we remember how to do this show. I don't know. I think we'll figure it out.
Of course, we got Brian Cooper and Brian Shar. We are sitting across the street from the Yakima Chief Hops booth.
It smells good over here.
That's what I'm liking best about it. It's the best smelling beer festival I've been to, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
We got the hops wafting our way, which is very nice, and we're surrounded by homebrew, which is perfect for your show, guys.
There's beers with different yeasts over there, Y yeast. There's beers with different hops. Hopstein and all these other places. They're doing some real fun stuff in here. Excellent. I could hang out here all day.
We should just live stream us walking around drinking beer is what we ought to be doing.
I'm not against this. I'm a content guy, Brian. I think you should do that. I'll just give you a camera phone and you just go for it.
4 hours of people watching me drink. That would be awesome.
Yeah. I do want to thank our amazing sponsor, 5-Star. 5-Star Chemicals, who's been supporting this program since the day it started, and more importantly, supporting good beer since they started. If sanitation is your thing, and it should be, or do not hand me your beer to try, you want to use 5-Star. Star San, of course, PBW, which, by the way, I don't just use my brewery. I think I use PBW for everything.
Yeah, there's lots of uses, yeah.
My coffee maker has to get cleaned out every now and then.
Yeah.
I just soak it in PBW.
My iced tea maker, I have this iced tea maker thing. You just put some PBW in the water, you run it through a cycle, the thing is brand new.
Absolutely.
The dishwasher, put some hot PBW in the bottom and go. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
They're also just friendly folks over there, so check them out at 5-Star Chemicals, and thanks for supporting this show. So today, of course, we're going to be evaluating some homebrew, but we've also got George from iDip sitting in with us today, and iDip, of course, has also been a supporter of this program, but more importantly, an innovator in I think, certainly for homebrew, but really beer in general with your tell us about the iDip device so that our listeners know exactly what we're talking about.
Well, basically, we're talking about the Smart Brew water testing kit.
Yeah.
It's involves, we have a new product out called the Smart Brew Professional Test Kit. It involves, Yeah, it now we incorporate not only the photometer that has two-way communication with your smartphone, but we also now have a multimeter pH probe that does pH, conductivity, TDS, temperature, ORP, salinity. So now everything connects through Bluetooth to the exact iDip app.
Wow.
So it gives you real clear water profile information that you need for brewing.
So George, this pH meter does total dissolved solids.
It does.
Wow. Yeah. So it's a lot more than just a pH meter.
That's correct. Yeah.
So that's really cool, because that's one of those measurements as a home brewer I'd kind of like to know sometimes, but the equipment for doing that was previously available was just, it's out of reach for a consumer use.
Sure. And this is a very premium unit. So it's going to give you very accurate information. The probes are interchangeable. Okay. So I know ORP isn't used too often in brewing, but there is that application that you can add to it. Yeah. That's an upgrade, of course. It's all, like I said, it's all Bluetooth, and then within the app we have the calculations like we always have. It's just that now you'll be able to take measurements with RO water, because when you're doing colorimetric tests, like with the reagents that we have, you have limitations when it comes to alkalinity and how it affects the results that you get. So now, and also with this addition of pH meter, you can not only test the water, but you can also test, the wort or even your final product. Yeah,
I was wondering about that, if you can also do the wort and the beer.
Yeah.
So it'll read those the same way.
It will, and it's all temperature compensated as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, just all the different tests it's able to do are amazing, but I just like that you're able to do it quick, and it doesn't need much water. You just do, it's like a 4 milliliter sample size.
That's right. Yeah.
And you just drop it in there, and you know exactly where your water's at too. And I always tell people it's something nice to, if you can get your homebrew club to go in on one for people to share. Not every homebrewer can afford afford to buy their own meter like this, but it's reasonably priced for what it does.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you can get a few people to go in. If you have a few buddies you brew with, you want to know where your water's at all the time, right at the moment, because they change the water on us all the time in California. It's nuts.
Well, and we've been talking about how important water is for years on the Brewing Network. And in some ways, we've always said, look, if you're just starting out brewing, don't worry too much about it, right? Get the rest of it down. Get sanitation down. Get fermentation down. But as you advance as a brewer, and maybe you want to clone certain beers, maybe you really want to dial in your competition brewing, water is absolutely essential. And so to know where your water is at from the get-go, and I was just talking, so our friends Denny Kahn and Drew Beecham over there do a podcast, and we were just talking about audio gear and how over the years the technology has made it more available. I can now bring a broadcast setup that fits in a small suitcase as opposed to a small room. And the same is true for testing your water.
That's correct.
As Brian kind of mentioned, this used to be hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment.
Yeah, older traditional photometers do over 40 parameters like you can do with the idea.
Yeah.
And one of the things about this that's unique, that makes it so accessible, is the fact that you only pay for what you use.
Okay.
So, you can buy a pre-configured kit, and it has all the parameters built on the software side because it is app-based for the IDIP photometer. But there's over 40 parameters that you can actually upgrade and install into the app and unlock. So,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. No,
and
so
again, only pay for what you use.
That's right.
Yeah.
So instead of spending, say $700 or $1,000, you're looking at for a base unit, a couple $100.
Sure.
It's very affordable. And then as you add on to it for what you need, you can do different metals, iron, copper, manganese has come up in discussions here at the show with several people. Oh yeah. So and it will test all those parameters if you need to. But the basic brew kit. It's going to do, pH, alkalinity, chloride, sulfate, total hardness, magnesium. So all these things you can do in the one kit, but then you can add on to it depending on what you're using.
So I'm betting if you have a swimming pool, I'm betting you can add on so that you can just cancel your swimming pool guy.
Hey,
and go I've got this add on. I can just do this myself now and save however many bucks a month.
Well, we marked this. The Smart Brew Kit is just one of the many configurations that we have.
Yeah.
But we use this for drinking water, for wastewater, pool and spa, pond and aquarium. So this one is just the kit that's designed for the brewers.
I see.
It's nice that you did that. Other stuff you
We're
cover.
nice guys. Yeah.
And I definitely love the ability to select your own apps for the things you want to measure. Because where I used to live had really soft water. And the issue I always want to know about was calcium. Because I had really low calcium. And you need to have calcium over a certain level for yeast health.
Sure.
So there's you can get different apps for different ranges of calcium. So a lot of people aren't going to need low calcium. I did.
Yeah.
Right. And I moved to a different place. I need to get familiar with my new water, so I can buy some different apps for that. And if you brew with well water, which I got to help the people that have to brew with well water, because well water can just be nasty. Things like iron become really important because as your well pipe, I'm not saying anything you don't know, but as your well pipe gets rusty or old, that's just going to make your water more and more irony.
Yeah.
And that's bad. It's not just bad for clothes and whatever, it's really bad for brewing.
Yeah.
So knowing that iron for well water is just critical.
Sure. And again, especially you start getting into well water, it's not controlled by municipalities. Right. It's not regulated. It's really up to the individual well owner to look at the content of what's in the well. You can, of course, do that with this, and then you'll just have to start looking at remediation, filtering out iron, or it could be manganese. It could be arsenic. Yeah. This won't do arsenic, but, that's something else that, depending on your region, you may have that.
I don't want to know anyway, George. I do not want to know how much arsenic. Oh, man.
Yeah. Maybe that's the thing
with
your
news, too.
feet.
Yeah.
Could be.
You like beer, though, too, right?
Absolutely.
We brought some West Coast IPA, some double IPA that you might recognize.
Okay.
If you're
Brian
into
brought
that,
some Pliny
I'm
to
sharing
share.
some
Sounds
Pliny
like
the
a plan.
Elder.
I need to finish the one I have right here.
Well, I don't want to make you pound that. We can get you a cup.
So, George, I'm curious, as a water guy like you are, are you able, when you taste beer, can you kind of tell which brewers are paying attention to their water and which aren't?
Oh, absolutely.
You can.
Because you look at the different water profiles and how it affects, in terms of the chloride, the sulfur sulfate, the ratios.
Yeah.
You can have high calcium levels. You have all sorts of factors that, especially when you do the come to the homebrew shows.
Yeah.
You see, a difference from that versus where we have the night with the professional brewers. You can definitely see, and some have it dialed in and they've nailed it.
Yeah.
And others you can taste the flaws. Yeah.
Well, Tasty. Go ahead.
And I was going to say too, the stories that I hear, it's unbelievable how many brewers have started off as home brewers, because we've been doing this now in this industry. We about 4 or 5 years now. It's when we launched the first Smart Brew kit.
Okay.
But we've actually been in water testing since 1989, so this is our 30th anniversary this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But
congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate that. But we've had brewers that they've graduated from being home brewers into becoming professional brewers, and have come to us and told us how much they were able to really control their product.
I would be proud of that.
To hear
it's
exciting. I love to see that they come by the booth and it's a good time. So,
we're proud when we see some of our homebrew listeners going pro as well. So and just to have a small hand in that is nice.
Yeah.
And so Tasty, one of our co-hosts on the show, we love the guy, and he's kind of our resident hop guy, and he has talked for years about how getting hops to express themselves better in beer has a lot to do with your water as well.
Sure.
It's not just the hops that you use.
That's right.
It's how you can help elevate. Is it? You're going to have to help me, Brian. Is it chlorides that help? There's something in particular that helps elevate hops.
If you use like a Burtonized water as opposed to just a more clean, more neutral water, it's going to accent the hop bitterness a little bit in the way the hops express itself. You just taste how those English beers taste a lot differently. You can add a little gypsum, which is calcium sulfate, which is a part of the Burtonization, and that's the sulfates are kind of what play nicely with some of the hop aromas and the flavors. But if you go too heavy with that, it can start to taste chalky and minerally, and the bitterness gets a little harsher too. So you really have to balance that and not go over the top on your mineral adjustments.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's something George and I talked about very briefly before the show. Is one of the great things about homebrew in the last few years has been the emphasis on water, the information about water. Our good friends John Palmer, Jamil, they've done a lot of work on that. But there's also the flip side: is a little knowledge can be a dangerous thing, where sometimes the flaws that I see in homebrew and competitions now as opposed to 10 years ago, one of the biggest flaws I see is people that over-adjust the water and don't understand what their base water is.
Okay.
Someone hears that, I want a hoppy beer, I need to have calcium sulfate. And they dump a bunch of gypsum in, and they don't realize how much is already in.
Maybe it was already okay.
Maybe it was already fine. And then you get that beer in competition, and it's like licking a rock.
Okay.
And I swear, no matter what flight I judge, every flight of 8 beers, I have some comment somewhere, this beer is like licking a rock.
Okay.
Please back off. If you're adjusting your water, please back off. Please understand what your water is first.
Well, I'm offended
so
that you're
critical.
telling everybody about my beer that you judged right now.
Is it like
it's anonymized. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's totally fine.
Yeah.
Is it like licking your pet rock by chance?
Yes, it is. I'm not going to tell you how I know.
Brian's just at that age where he knows exactly what a pet rock is.
I just made it.
Oh, I'm more than exactly at that age.
I was trying to catch my friend Jeff's attention out there. We were making a joke about pet rocks.
But knowing what your water is so critical to being able to adjust it. And because it does vary, and it can vary every time you brew, it's so important to have something like the iDip that can tell you what your water is easily and simply, and just know what you got.
So, George, where can people go to find out more about iDip and how to get it?
You can look at smartbrewkit.com. There's a nice landing page that you can go to. It describes the various configurations. You can get them, with 2 meters, a single meter. You can always part these out, sort of an a la carte if you really want to. But, that's the best place. And we have nice videos. There's YouTube videos that you can watch.
Okay.
And our customer service is second to none. So,
your carrying case is really nice too. You can put your pH meter in there. You can put your water tester. Everything's ready to go. You just carry it to your brew session wherever you're going, and you're done.
Facilitates sharing too.
So.
And your booth is right here. Just I can see your sign for your booth 20 feet away.
Right there. I know we're supposed to do that.
You're getting a lot of traffic from the Yakima Chief hop people lining up here. So
All right,
great show.
SmartBrewKit.com is where you can check it out. George, I want to thank you for doing what you do so that we get to have better beer, but also thanks for supporting our show. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
It's wonderful. Thank you, guys. Appreciate
All right,
it.
we're going to take a real quick break. When we come back, we got some homebrew to try, and if you gather around, we might have a little extra that we could share for a couple people.
I've got a lot of extra, actually.
You got extra beer? All right, we'll be back in just a couple minutes. You're listening to Dr. Homebrew live from HomebrewCon.
Hello, fellow BNers. This is Sully from the 21st Amendment Brewery located in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park. Before Nico and I opened the 21A and before I was a professional brewer, I homebrewed on my small 4-burner apartment stove in a back house in Santa Monica, California, making my extract brews before graduating to the daunting idea of all-grain brewing. Homebrew books and information was hard to come by back then. The internet hadn't been invented yet, along with other things we take for granted today, like electricity and potable water. One thing I wish I had back then when I was learning was a radio show that could teach me the ins and outs of brewing and answer questions that I had about homebrewing, a resource for making great craft beer. The 21st Amendment Brewery is excited to be a proud sponsor of Dr. Homebrew, a great show that teaches you what you need to know about making incredible beer. Good stuff. Listen up, you might learn something. I certainly did. And thanks for your support. Tasty Crack Kings.
The leader in affordable, high-quality kegerators is here. Introducing Komos, the kegerator designed with serious beer drinkers in mind. It features an all-stainless steel draft tower, a major upgrade over traditional chrome-plated brass towers, and Komos keeps your new tower cold with their air-cooled tower fan, wrapping your beer lines in frigid coolness. Your beer is poured from innovative forward-sealing faucets that don't leak, so they stay cleaner for longer. Dual gas inlets on the rear of the fridge allow you to run both CO2 and nitrogen gas. Serve your beer with CO2, serve your kegged wine, or even cocktails with nitrogen. The digital temperature display has the largest range available, allowing you to use the Komos Kegerator for fermentation if you need to. And now Komos Kegerators ship with duo-tight draft fittings for that click-to-connect assembly we've all dreamed of. Buy direct from KomosDraft.com and receive free shipping on your order. That's KOMOS Draft.com.
Welcome back to Dr. Homebrew. We are live from HomebrewCon in Providence, Rhode Island. We are hanging out, talking beer, drinking beer. Brian even brought some Pliny the Elder, fresh from Northern California.
Yes.
I'm such a creature of habit that I'm all the way across the country, and I'm just happy to have a little Pliny in my glass.
Yeah, we had someone pounding it in the lobby of the Omni. I won't name any names, but he's a pretty prominent homebrew community member, and there was a fun little party there last night with the other bottle I brought.
Man, it was kind of ridiculous, actually. The bar had closed. I was looking forward to going to bed, and then in between me and my hotel room was that goddamn bottle share in the lobby of the Omni Hotel, and it was in between me and the elevator, so it's like running the gauntlet, and of course I had to stop and have more beer.
What are you going to do?
Which is exactly what I needed in my life at that point, was a little bit more beer.
2:30 in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a great time at HomebrewCon. If you've never been, you should join us next year. It's in Nashville, Tennessee next year. So I can't think of one reason that you shouldn't come to HomebrewCon next year. It's a fun town. It's a fun place to be.
I haven't heard one person ever say a bad word about Nashville.
No, there's no bad
Whether
words
to
to
live
say.
or as a travel destination. I've never heard anything but good things about that place.
I'm pretty sure when I go there next year for HomebrewCon, I'm just going to stay, actually. That's how good that town is. It's a lot of fun. Well, joining us today, we have David and Steve, and I believe, are we doing both of their beers, Brian? Have we got 2 different beers?
They have a cadre of 3 beers that is a part of a club project that they did, and they're the members of the Miami Area Society of Homebrewers, which otherwise known as MASH. Creative there, but I wanted to let them talk about what they did, why they chose to do it, and it was nice that they contacted me. They were coming to the show, and I'm like, come on, guys, bring your beer and their game, and they're here, so
tell us about the project. Yeah, thank you.
So we had what is basically a fantasy draft, but it was for beer instead of the NFL. And we had 8 categories: yeast, 3 malts, 3 hops, and a wild card category that had like strawberries or peppers or vanilla, cocoa puffs, that sort of thing. And then we had a normal draft, and we had 17 teams show up to do the draft.
Wow.
And they had to pick initially yeast, and then 3 other things that they picked in a normal draft order. And then the last 4 items were randomly picked for them.
How'd you decide who got the first round draft pick? Just random chance?
I think it was a random
That
number.
was a random number generator as well.
Nice,
Okay.
nice. I like this. This is an interesting way to have a little club competition.
Yeah.
So tell us about this first beer. We have something called a Twit beer. Is this right?
Right.
A Twit beer.
That's your beer, Steve.
Yeah, it's mine. So I ended up with basically British hops and British yeast and German malt.
Okay.
So I said, well, what can I do with that? And so I said, well, I'll try and do a Hefeweizen, but using British yeast and British hops.
Okay. And that's what we're pouring right now?
We're pouring it right now. Yeah, this was interesting. I tried to look up anything I could learn about it, but I didn't get very far. There's no guidelines for this. Yeah, Gordon hasn't put it in there yet, but maybe he will. Who knows?
That's in Gordon's safe, the 2020 guidelines that only Gordon knows, and you need to have the special combination. To get
And who
there.
brewed this one?
I brewed it.
You brewed it. Okay. That is Steve. Okay, cool. Well, do you mind if I chat about the beer a little bit?
I don't mind at all.
In my limited experience with English Hefeweizens,
You've made an awful lot of notes for somebody who's never.
I'm prolific. It's what I do, Justin.
Okay.
In the nose, I'm getting a kind of a biscuity, bready malt, but with a little toasty edge. I think I'm wondering if the malt is expressing itself in an English way because of the yeast that's there twisting it. You know what I mean? Sometimes you do a Belgian IPA and it twists the hops to taste, Belgian-y, for lack of a better word. Getting a medium-low earthy hop character, moderate level of stone fruit esters, and no DMS or diacetyl. It's pretty clean. In the appearance, it's a deep golden colored beer. It has a low beige colored head. It's a little, pretty thick. Persists for a little while. Not too bad. It's a really nicely formed head. Fine bubbles and some larger bubbles, but it just looks proteinaceous. You can see the protein in this beer. Like it's just hanging out there. And, a nice head on that beer. So there's a slight bit of haze to the beer. It's not perfectly clear, but it's not as hazy as you would see in a German Weizen, for example. But just enough to look a little Weizen-y, but I'd say it's a little dark, if you were looking at it. I don't know what to compare it to, so and I don't know what the color range is on these, so I don't know anything. Anyway, in the flavor, it's got a nice biscuity and bready flavor with some toasty notes as well. Again, those apricot-like stone fruit esters coming through nicely, I think, from the yeast, a medium level alongside that. It finishes, I would say, semi-sweet. It's not super dry. It's not super sweet. It's definitely not cloying at all. So the toastiness and the biscuity malt's going to come through in the end. The malt and the fruitiness really just linger on the palate for a long time. I like the way that kind of finishes out with the sweetness kind of accenting it, just a light sweetness. It's balanced pretty evenly between the malt and the yeast character, I would say. There's not a lot of hop going on here. It's very low bitterness out of the way, low earthy hop, but nicely done on the flavor. I like the flavor a lot. Mouthfeel-wise, I would say it's medium-bodied, pretty, leaning a bit towards the fuller side of the spectrum even. Medium-low carbonation. There's no astringency. It's very smooth beer, very smooth and creamy. You guys can taste this beer, too. It's right here.
Anybody wants some
the
here?
Twit beer.
Yeah.
It's no obvious alcohol warmth. It's not a strong beer, but it's a clever beer. I don't know. It's a cleanly brewed, well balanced beer, showing off the clean, English yeast and that malt character. Again, it twists kind of English to me with the way the yeast is treating it. I think, even though it is German, mostly. I don't know. We'll talk about recipe briefly here too. But full bodied for the for a lighter beer, it feels like a Weizen does. How the Weizen has all yeast and suspension. It can feel creamier and fuller in the mouthfeel than it really is. It's like a 5% beer. It just feels bigger.
Yeah.
Like an animal that gets really big and that, even though it's kind of small.
Sure.
It makes itself look that way, like a pufferfish. This is something I would
think you
sip
just
on
named this beer.
The pufferfish.
Yeah.
Did you just watch
beer.
Finding Nemo
A
with
lot
your
of,
son?
yeah. You can drink a lot of this on a spring day. It's maybe not the best summer beer. It's a little sweeter than I would like for that. But I think a slight bit more attenuation may improve it, and I'd like it a little better if it was just a bit drier. But also, declaring that dry hop character. I said it was dry hopped with English hops. You might want to leave that off the sheet at this level, or just, I think amping up the dry hop and maybe experimenting with the different kind of hop varietals you're using could be fun. I'm not sure what hop was used in here. We'll talk about that too, but I'm not getting a lot of, well, I don't know. It's kind of more English, like maybe Fuggle like character than like a bright EKG like character. So maybe play around with the hops, put in something else. Even some American hops might be fun to throw in there. The English aren't afraid to use those. But I gave the beer a 36. I kind of didn't know where to put it, but I think it's a cleanly brewed beer. It's a nice beer, and it's kind of fun. So thanks for sharing it.
Awesome. I don't know what to make of this beer myself. I'm mirroring. Of course, you're much more detailed than I am, Brian. But as I'm tasting it, I just don't know what to do with it. It's a very pleasant beer. It reminds me a little of like early 2000s East Coast Pale Ale, right? Kind of in that middle balance where it's. I'm not saying it's too sweet, but I'm certainly not saying it's too hoppy either. It's you know what? It's a goddamn good middle of the road beer. Is what it is.
No, I agree.
Did you have any thoughts to add, Brian?
Yeah, I largely echo what Brian said. I think I got kind of a bready, in a good way, yeasty, bready character off of the aroma. Didn't get a huge amount of fruitiness. I'm curious, we'll talk about your fermentation temps a little later. Windsor, I looked it up, like 63 degrees plus. So I'm be curious what range you ended up fermenting at, because hef can go depending on your strain. Right. And your preference for banana versus clove can be like anywhere from 60 to 70 or something like that. It's hazy, but not in a good way. It's hazy like a Hefeweizen. It's not, and I hate that I have to modify this now. It's not hazy like a New England IPA. This is not like there's sludge at the bottom of the glass. Okay, this is hazy, hazy, which is good. I did get, in terms of the English hops have a tendency to be a little on the cheesy side, and I did get kind of some hop cheesiness in the kind of mid-palate on this beer, especially, and it's kind of blown off a little bit, or I've gotten used to it, but there's a little cheesiness, and I'll be curious. I'm going to do Babe Ruth, and I'm going to call you Plymouth, because I've heard Plymouth is like a kind of a cheesy, new school variety UK hop, and I'm probably wrong, and I look forward to you telling me how I'm wrong in a minute. But I kind of echo what Brian said, is you might want to experiment. If you're going to declare dry hop, it needs more hop aroma, and you might think about a different or additional UK hop variety for next time. I would brew this again. It's an interesting experiment. I echo what Justin said, that it's pleasant. It's like something you'd buy commercially in the early 90s, and it is. You would buy this at the store in the 90s, and it would be a good beer.
And I don't mean that as a diss on the beer, too. I'm saying I really like the beer. I'm trying to, as Brian Cooper was having trouble relating it to something, it's all I could relate it to.
No, I'm not meaning it as a diss either. I mean, this is a type of beer you would buy this in the store in 1992, and you know what? I'd a pack of it, and you'd love it.
I'd have been damn happy with it. That's right.
Okay. Yeah. So I gave it a 34 overall, and look forward to hearing about the details.
All right. Next, we're going to do this ginger beer. This is a ginger pale ale.
But are we going to hear? Do you want to hear about the details?
Oh, we wanted to. Yeah. Okay.
He's got the recipe out and ready to go.
Yeah. What did you put in that beer? So sorry. Yeah.
You were wrong on the hops.
Of course, he was wrong.
So these are my drafted items. I had a German Pilsner, so I put nearly 48% Pilsner in there. Red wheat, which I'd never even heard of before.
Me neither.
No. So it's 48% of that. And then I had Cara Red, so I put 4.2% of that in there, which is probably what the color is from. And then I did get one American hops in my draft, which was Columbus. So I used that for the bittering.
Okay.
At half an ounce at 60 minutes. Then I did some EKG, half an ounce at 5 minutes, and some Fuggle, half an ounce at 5 minutes, and then dry hopped with an ounce of EKG and an ounce of Fuggle.
Were they pellets or whole cones?
Pellets.
Yeah.
And do you know the freshness? Are they any idea of the crop year, or were they stored in the freezer when the homebrew store? Or?
Did you find them on the ground?
Being brought upon. Fair enough. That I only ask because sometimes if hops are a little older, especially UK hops, because they have a tendency toward cheese anyway, older UK hops can get a little more, and that may be where a little, and it wasn't like it was licking a thing of blue cheese.
No.
But it was just some of that character. If I'm thinking about fine points for how to do better, that maybe was a thing to clean up.
I would maybe
I can definitely taste that.
Maybe go heavier on the balance of EKG to Fuggle and the dry hop, or even just switch it. just to
It's a good
EKG.
idea.
That would be fun.
Right. So the one other interesting bit was trying to figure out what yeast to use. So I was trying to do this Hefeweizen thing. So from what I read, Windsor seemed to be the most funky sort of British yeast or English yeast out there. So
It's very characterful for sure.
Yeah, so that's what I used, and I did it at Hefeweizen temperature. So I went from 68 to 72 degrees over the ferment.
That's
All right.
reasonable.
So next up is the ginger beer. Are you interested in starting us off on that one?
I'd be happy to start us off with the ginger beer.
We did the ginger beer.
So-
This was an American pale ale with ginger. So
Exactly.
any thoughts about that beer? What was the inspiration for this? Who got drafted into that?
That was Eric in our club, Eric Meyer.
Shout out to Eric. Is Eric here?
Eric is not here. We'll get him out to Nashville.
Excellent.
Sir, not appearing at this conference.
Okay, so we can
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay, aroma. The aroma was medium-high ginger that was pleasant and doesn't overpower. I thought it was a really deft hand with the ginger, because ginger is one of those things that you can just way overdo, and it doesn't even take that much to suddenly go from there's not really much ginger in here to oh my god, this is like a ginger bomb. I'm drinking ginger ale. So that's really good job of having this be a ginger beer, but there was not just ginger going on in the aroma. Low malt, no esters that were apparent other than the ginger. No diacetyl, no off aromas. There's some citrus hop that comes through kind of in parallel with the ginger. Again, good job to do this, to have an APA-based beer that doesn't have the hops totally get massacred by ginger. So I gave this 9 out of 12. Appearance, 3 out of 3. Color a little on the dark side, hazy more in the dry hop sense than the maybe now common sense. Head is heroic and very persistent. I mean, you look at this thing from the audience. This is something that got poured several minutes ago, and it's still really nice head on this. So good
I love
job.
this
That's
descriptor,
really
Brian.
hard to do.
Heroic.
Well, yeah, you got to give this big head some kind of name, but it really stands. We were judging this, and this head stood on this beer for 10 minutes in the process of judging.
Clinging to the sides of the glass. It's, everywhere that head can stick, it'll go.
It's really good. Malt was very prominent. There's restrained ginger that comes up in mid-palate with some medium bitterness to balance. Some medium spicy / citrus hop is in there as well as the ginger. Again, the ginger doesn't overwhelm the flavor any more than it does the aroma. Finished is long and balanced. It's well attenuated. Give this 12 out of 20. Mouthfeel's a 5 out of 5. Medium body, medium carbonation. Slight warming, no astringency, really more perky than creamy. Exactly what you want from a American Pale Ale. Overall impression, I gave this 8 out of 10 for a total score of 37. I think that the ginger is perfect. If I at anything, having just a little bit more hop aroma and a little bit more hop flavor would be welcome. It's there. It's not that it's not there. Right, I think that's partly why this is such a deftly handled ingredient with the ginger. It doesn't overwhelm everything and become ginger ale. But a little more hop aroma and a little more hop flavor would push this up, I think, over 40. This is really, really nicely done.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I'll just add briefly to what Brian said. The ginger is bright and clean in the nose. I really like that. As I get into the flavor, though, it seems to me a little, dominating the hops a little too much, and I don't, I may not care for ginger as much as Brian does. I admit that it's not a ginger bomb in
You were
any
more
sense
of a
the word.
Mary Ann than a ginger person.
And so, I would dial the ginger back, honestly, to let the hops shine out and push the hops up a little bit, because that ginger is still going to stand out just fine with a little bit less and have a better balance. To me, it's also giving a bit of a biting character in the mouthfeel, to me, which is a little harsh. And not harsh, but and the appearance of the beer is also very murky, and I love the head, but I had to take a point off just for the haziness. You should get your APA a little clearer than that. But he did a nice job overall. It's a very well brewed beer.
Yeah,
it's fun. I ended up giving it a 33, but I liked a lot about it. But I was dial that ginger back a bit to let the hops shine.
Yeah, usually if I see ginger in a descriptor, I'm like, oh, geez, this is going to be a 25-point, one-dimensional beer.
Yeah.
And this is far more than one-dimensional.
Do you have his recipe? Do you know how much ginger he used in this beer?
Yeah, he, let's see.
That's more of a gingerbread, by the way, if you're listening.
Gingerbread, yeah, that's
that's
true.
a good point.
Because it has a bready character
Bready malt.
that I think keeps it from being too much ginger, as you're kind of saying, Brian.
Yeah.
It adds to it. It has more depth than just ginger.
But it doesn't scream American Pale Ale, so yeah.
Right.
So he had a half ounce of minced ginger at 5 minutes, and then he dry hopped with a half ounce for 3 days.
And
Interesting.
5
Well,
gallons.
Dry ginger.
No, he dry hopped
hopped.
minced.
Oh, sorry.
ginger.
Yeah.
I
Minced. Okay, yeah.
My ears and brain were not working there.
It doesn't
for a
really
second.
seem like too much, Yeah,
That
that's...
sounds like a lot. Compared to
But-
what I'm tasting, it sounds like a lot.
Well, I don't know. I guess, half ounce. That's a
Half
full ounce
That's
altogether.
That's a good chunk of ginger. But it is not overwhelming in the beer, which I think is just
How,
important.
how long did he have the beer on the ginger? Do you know?
He dry hopped for 3 days, it says.
Okay.
Is it sustainably harvested ginger?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Only picked at the full moon by virgins wearing the Sacramento.
And then what were the
things,
malts and
yeah.
hops in this? What hops did he especially use?
He used, let's see. Now, he's interesting because he used all 8 ingredients that he picked.
Wow.
So, Crystal 20,
He's a rule follower.
a pound of Crystal 20, a quarter pound of Crystal 60, 10 pounds of 2-row, 2 pounds of floor malted Bohemian wheat. Let's see, an ounce of Mount Hood at 60 minutes, 3/4 of an ounce of Nelson Savon at 45
Nelson's
minutes,
Nice. I'd use more of that.
Wow.
I like that hop.
and Zythos. I don't know that one. Dry hop with Zythos for 1 ounce, 1 ounce for 3 days, and then some more Nelson for 3 days.
Despite the kitchen sink approach he had to use with your rules in this club, he made a pretty decent beer. I like it.
And now that you mentioned
yeah.
Nelson and Zythos, I'm getting there's a little lemon meringue in there, and I think that might be coming from those hops too. You get that kind of citrusy, lemony. It's a dessert.
Yeah.
beer.
Well, you
It's
also put a pie in the beer, I heard, right?
sounds like it.
Dry pieing?
Dry pie. Yeah.
Should we move on to this IPA? We got to keep it moving a little bit than we usually do, but I really want to get to this American IPA we got from the club. Tell me, who brewed this one?
Who was the winner of your competition? You should know this.
That's Chris Nash, right? Yes, Chris Nash. Sorry, Chris.
Okay. Here's the American IPA.
Hopefully his beer is more memorable than he is.
So in the nose, I'm getting some pine and a hint of melon. You guys out there can drink this beer with us as well. This is the American IPA right here, and I guess it's their contest winner. Pleasant pineapple-y and citrusy hops up front, some pine and a hint of melon. High level of clean kind of base malt, basic breadiness behind that. It's not jumping out in front of the hops at all, which I like. The fruity esters are moderate, and but seems really cleanly fermented ale character. Not getting any DMS. I'm wondering is there a tiny hint of diacetyl in there? I'm really sensitive to it, but just underneath, it's
only
not at a
moderately
level where
sensitive
it would
to
be offensive
diacetyl.
to anyone. It's just like a tiny butterscotch maybe, but
I can
overall,
talk myself into it with you've said it, but I
as it
didn't get it
warms, I'm
before,
getting
and
a touch of that.
I don't know. I trust your.
But
you're
it didn't
sensitive
offend me
to it.
much at all, and I missed it earlier. But appearance-wise, it's a nice golden-colored beer. On the lighter side for style, with a small white head and mostly fine bubbles. It stuck around moderately well. Left a bit of hop lacing on the edges of the glass, which I like. The beer is nice and clear. Tiny touch of hop haze, and that's fine. But yeah, it's a refreshing change from all these East Coast beers. Darn it.
Sure. Yeah.
No, I won't complain. There's some good ones.
You're going to complain.
Flavor-wise, again, there's a medium-high. The pine kind of jumps out more in the flavor to me, with a tropical and citrus edge. Low bready malt, cleanly fermented. Again, ale profile, somewhat fruity, medium-high, I would say. But some of the fruits coming from those hops. Sometimes you get a beer with a certain hop that just pushes out these massive specific fruit esters that just like, wow, pineapple or mango, things like that can be fun for me. So I really liked that about the beer. Just clean fruitiness lingers right into the aftertaste. Finished dry, but not bone dry. just off dry. But I would say too, it seems like a nice water profile. I don't know what they used. It seems like the water is kind of out of the way and just lets the hops shine without making anything too harsh. Medium low bitterness. Go see those Smart Brew guys. Get your water dialed in.
It's good advice.
The bitterness is out of the way. It's nice. It's one of the more modern style IPAs with a, it's kind of juicy actually. There's no harshness at all. No DMS. Maybe a touch of diacetyl, but mouthfeel wise, the body's fairly light, easy to drink. Only a hint of alcohol warmth. No obvious astringency here. It's not biting at all. It's just really smooth. Medium carbonation, maybe medium high, bordering on, but a nice easily drinkable beer. Overall, I'd say this is a wonderful American IPA, leaning toward the more modern side of the profile. The body is extremely light for the style. I would say it just really works nicely to make it drinkable, and you sip it and you want another sip. So then the off dry with that that lighter body just makes it a real quaffable beer. It may also be, if I had to guess, I'd say it could lean towards the lighter end of the ABV style, or it could be a sneaker that you drink a few and you're like, whoa. But so it's maybe increase the body slightly. You could get a little more malt to hop balance there, but it's nice the way it is, and you could even boost the alcohol a bit. But yeah, it's a fun beer. I gave it a 40. So
a 40.
I pulled it back just 1 point for the maybe diacetyl, but it's a nice beer.
So I'm gonna go just a little opposite you.
Okay.
And I never considered myself particularly sensitive to diacetyl, but it's predominant for me.
It's bugging you.
Beer.
If Doc was here, he'd be like, "Oh my God!"
He might have. It's predominant in this beer, and I'm actually not saying I'm still enjoying the beer a bit, but from the aroma to the finish, it's a butterscotch.
When it was colder, I didn't taste it
as it warms
over there, and as it's warming, I'm getting it more. So yeah.
And I'm sorry to be that guy. It just kind of is. It's persistent throughout the beer for me.
No, it's not a matter of being that guy. It's a matter of what's your threshold for diacetyl. I think I have a higher threshold than a lot of people.
Okay.
And I'm not blind to it, but I'm in that bell curve, kind of in the middle, toward the maybe slightly less sensitive.
Okay.
And there's people that are like Doc that are like, oh my God, it's like a molecule, 1 part per billion.
Sure.
Oh, I'm licking a stick of butter.
Sure.
So it's just your taste buds.
And
threshold.
I've never considered myself that sensitive to it. I actually think your palate sort of changes on a day-to-day basis. I think that can happen. It might matter that I'm hungover when I taste a beer sometimes, and in this particular case, it's just kind of standing out for me.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I want to point out, Brian, that of the beers that we've tasted here this week and on the show, this is your highest scoring beer so far.
Okay.
Wow. I've been taking note of what you guys score, and 40 is as high as you've gone.
Oh, on the show ever?
No, no, this weekend.
Okay.
He doesn't listen to the show.
I have no idea what you've done. But this weekend, I've heard you hover in the 30 to 35, right in there. But you went 40.
I think I was just happy that someone brought a West Coast IPA. I miss them. I'm going home on Sunday. I'm going to get some good IPA and drink it.
Brian Sharp, due to time, I got to give you the abbreviated version of your evaluation.
I'm going to do it
That's
super
what we're
abbreviated.
doing. Yep.
I didn't get the diacetyl. I largely echo exactly what Brian said. I thought the body was very drinkable. Body was light, but malt flavor was medium to high. Mm-hmm. Kind of like 90s IPAs, but not with the caramel, more just with the malt in general.
Okay.
I really like this beer, and my comment overall was, I like the balance. This is, for a modern IPA, having it not just be hop water, having a hop malt balance is really, I really liked. Having said that, it's one that's maybe not going to do well in competition because it's going to be up against hop bomb, 10 ounces of dry hops, 10 ounces of flavor hops, and it's going to get lost in the shuffle.
It's
in
a little
competition.
too old school for today's competition.
Yeah, I think you have to have judges that really understand what's happening, and it has to be in the right location in the flight. Right? This is a beer that shows up, into the flight. 5 beers into the flight, it's going to totally get overshadowed by everything before because your tongue is set to the ones you've already had. So this is a really good beer, and I stipulate to the diacetyl. I don't get it, but I will
we're
accept
tasting another bottle right
I'm tasting
now.
the first bottle. This is the bottle that we actually judged.
It's different.
I'm getting some bottle variation here for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's entirely possible.
Lighter.
It's the diacetyl is not absent, but it's very, very different.
It's a lot lighter, so there may be some diacetyl creeping up in there.
Yeah, that's definitely different.
Yeah, that's weird.
There's also, and this is what I do like about the beer in general, and I'm picking it up more in this second pouring you gave me. There's a spiciness to the hops that's helping this beer. The spice is helping the beer stand out a little bit, especially as you're talking about, Brian, in what it might do in competition.
Yeah.
And in this second pouring, because the diacetyl is a little lower, the spice is up even more, and I like that. I would have scored this one higher.
I scored this a 37.
Okay.
Again, this is because it didn't hit my diacetyl threshold. Someone that judges this that's more sensitive to diacetyl, like you guys, might be scored a little less. But overall, I thought it was very well done.
Yeah, as I was tasting that second bottle, I'm like, why did I score this a 40? It's not quite there. And then the butter just started bothering me a little bit. So,
but now that you taste this other sample,
it proves to me that there was definitely some bottle variation.
Okay.
And I think you guys all agree.
Which is good to know at homebrewers, that you can have some variation just by bottle even.
Now we all have to go do a shot of movie theater butter just to make sure that we're calibrated to diacetyl. Anybody have that handy? Movie theater butter? Anyone?
What were the hops that they used in this, real quickly?
Yeah, we've got Yukina, Eldorado, and Saz. So there was a little spicy pepper
a little
there.
spicy. Yeah, cheers. Nice job, Justin.
Oh, thanks.
You want to guest judge on our show sometime?
I really enjoy listening to, not that I listen to the show, but sitting here, I really do enjoy listening to you guys go through a score sheet and judge as I'm just sitting here tasting and to see if I'm in line at all. And I'm finding that I pick up some of the same notes, which is kind of fun for me.
Yeah.
So, not a bad beer. I want to be clear that even with the diacetyl, it was kind of fun to be able to pick that out. Especially the second sample, it's not a bad beer.
There's some honey malt in there. I'm wondering if the sweetness from that may have
elevated the diacetyl. So that's a good point. If you have some kind of sweetness, you might be pushing forward notes that you didn't intend, like a bit of sweetness.
Right. And I will say that Chris Nash probably should have been disqualified from the competition. He drew coconut in the draft, opted not to use it.
Oh, no, you can't opt out. You cannot opt out.
What did your judges score this beer? Do you remember?
It was a People's Choice Award.
Choice.
And this was the winner.
Yes.
Okay.
So I've got another beer I'm going to share with you guys. This is from my local brewery. It's called Altamont Hella Happy, and it's a double IPA. We had a little Pliny earlier. I'm just bringing the West Coast out to the East Coast.
So if you're standing around, come on up to the table.
Come up and grab a sip. Here.
I also, while Brian's pouring, I want to read a note from our friends at Yakima Chief, just across the aisle here, 10 feet away. They heard the previous beer we were discussing and made a note, and I knew Zythos was a blend of something. They noted that Zythos is a proprietary blend from Yakima Chief. So definitely something fun to play with, and if you're interested in doing something like that, and you're here at the conference, Yakima Chief's just right here, 10 feet away.
I got $20 that says Corporate Alex is the one who handed you that note.
Joe from Yakima Chief.
Did I just lose $20 to Joe? Damn
you just lost $20, dude.
Damn it.
He totally just brought us over a sheet here about about the specifics of the blend. So I won't belabor the point because we're kind of short on time. But if anybody wants to learn about it, there's a sheet right here at the table.
And you can go to YakimaChief.com.
Go to YakimaChief.com.
All right. Well, listen, I got to wrap this up. Are we good?
We're good. Thank you so much.
Thanks
to the MASH guys for coming out, and the guys that weren't able to make it, come next time.
Thanks so much for being here and for sharing your beer with everybody. We appreciate it very much. Thanks for listening to Dr. Homebrew. I want to thank 5 Star Chemicals for being our wonderful sponsor. I also want to thank our guest today, George from iDip, who was just really fun to talk to. I talked to him off air a little bit too, and he's passionate about beer and water chemistry. So you're going to want to go to smartbrewkit.com and check that out. You can go to 5starchemicals.com and learn more about our sponsor there. And Brian
and Justin Crosley, our hostess with the mostest.
It's been fun to fill in for JP. Maybe I should have JP stay home a little more often. I had a good time doing this show with you guys.
It's been fun doing the show with you too, man.
It's been really cool. So we've got some Brew Strong coming up next here if you're listening live. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. This has been Dr. Homebrew live from the National Homebrewers Conference, now known as HomebrewCon in Providence, Rhode Island, and we'll see you next time.
Go get that check.